Every business has an audience. If you do not understand that audience, you don't know how to operate. You don't know what products to build, you don't know how to talk to them, you don't know how to grow your business.
The biggest challenge for businesses today is the complex landscape that they have to compete within. Even a tiny brand is competing on a global stage, and the market's moving so much faster than it ever has been. So how do they deliver against that?
So we exist to help our customers understand their audiences, and we do that by running research at massive scale, and we put it into a platform that anyone can use and anyone can find compelling, simple insights that can drive and scale their business.
Now there's so much more of an onus on understanding audiences based around interests. So rather than males, 25 to 34s, you might want to understand gamers. If you were to look at GWI's data on gamers, you would see that that audience is so much richer and more diverse than you might expect. There's a really interesting gender balance, there's engagement among all age groups, so it's an audience that challenges your preconceptions because you've come at them from their interests rather than their demographics. GWI allows us to speak to millions of consumers each year across a huge range of countries. We are in 47 markets, speaking to consumers every day about what they're doing and why they're doing it.
The new GWI was designed to address exactly the challenge of getting granular audience insights quickly and embedding them in day-to-day of the organisation.
For quite a long time, data like ours had been the preserve of research experts who had to know how to use it, had to know various background and context. Our aim is to put that data into the hands of everyone to help them make the best informed, most insight-driven decisions they can.
When we say a platform for everyone, we literally mean a place where anyone who needs to get insight about the audience can log in and access it directly. And the reason we believe that's important is that in order for audience insights to really be impactful, they have to be embedded in daily decision-making at every level of the organisation.
The new GWI is about empowering your organisation to be truly data-driven, enabling any business of any scale, anywhere in the world, to be able to create really exciting, meaningful insights.
Hello everyone. My name is Kyriakos. I am a software engineer for the last 8 years, and I'm part of CodeHub for the last 2 years. As a respective speaker, I would like to share 2 things with you, my dear audience. The first one is that it's the first time that I step on an amphitheater. I was studied in University of the Aegean, and if we have any brothers or sisters from this university, they will understand me why this is the first time that I stepped on the amphitheater. Anyone from University of the Aegean? We never have, and I don't know why. One? Sorry, it's the last. Hi, you probably know me. So, the second thing that I want to share with you, it is like a couple of days ago when I was making this presentation, there was a rehearsal, and I was standing in front of my mirror and talking and talking again and again, moving my hairs, my arms were everywhere. So then I realized that my hands are very empty, and in the presentation probably I'm going to have a microphone or something and say, okay, we have to make this straight again. You have to grab a microphone, because I didn't have a microphone. I grabbed my mobile phone, and I was standing in front of my mirror like this. So I was like in a Greek singer at the 80s, all over in the mirror ever again. So after all this information that I share with you, let's start with the presentation. I'm here today to discuss an exciting topic that lies in the intersection between software development and artificial intelligence. We want to discuss the importance of ChatGPT and how it can help us and increase our productivity in the realm of automation unit tests, of automated unit tests. As developers, we all know the importance of unit tests in our code base, okay? We all value them, and we value their existence. I mean, thanks to them, our code is robust. But also, we are no stranger to the fact that it's time-consuming to maintain these tests and write them. And because I'm maybe a lazy developer, the first time that I saw ChatGPT, it was mainly the first idea that came into my mind. Okay, how can we automate this? We have a problem there. I am very bored to write unit tests, so how can we automate this? And I came up with this idea, which in the end became the presentation. Before we dive into the potential of ChatGPT, let's take some time to reflect on a typical developer workflow. As developers, we spend countless hours designing solutions, solving complex problems, and being innovative in that process. Actually, we try. But another part of this workflow is the repetitive tasks. I think that this happens in every job. Like ours, we have tasks that we do them over and over again. We don't get we don't get value from it, but we have to do them. And for me, these repetitive tasks are writing unit tests. Okay, so the first three is the reason that personally I tried to become an engineer, and the fourth one about repetitive tasks, not so much. Now, the repetitive tasks, such as unit tests, takes a significant portion of our time, and that we spend on them. We need to write them, okay? We need to spend some time. Also, creating and maintaining the unit tests sometimes can be monotonous, tedious, draining our creative energy, distract us from other creative stuff, but and depending on our ability to tackle more challenging and exciting endeavors. But as I said before, unit tests are there for a reason, okay? We need them. It's one place that we can test our code in isolation. For example, if we have a component in a JavaScript framework of your choice, it's the only way where we can test if this component runs as expected to run. We can detect bugs early with unit tests, and also we can ensure our code correctness throughout the time. Also, we can enable refactoring and evolution. Every time we need to refactor a piece of code, the unit tests are there to remind us, sorry, dude, you forgot that. You have to pick it up. You broke this. You have to pick it up. Also, it can boost our developer confidence. When you have something that is there and it is working, you are more confident about your choices in terms of refactoring. Also, there is another chance that you can support continuous integration and deployment. Imagine that you have a CI/CD pipeline, and before each push of your code to the production server, you can run the unit tests, so they're there to help you. Now, there is one problem in all this situation. It's pretty much boring to write these unit tests many times. You want to do something more exciting, but you don't, because you have to write the unit tests. So what if there was a way to automate this process, to spend less time in writing these monotonous unit tests, and also have more time to invest on something else, on your code, like, I don't know, fix a bug or something. So there is a solution in this problem. The solution for me is ChatGPT, but not a ChatGPT that we know and we visit as their application. Thankfully, OpenAI provides us with an API, and among other things, they let us to train our own models. So let's go through this a bit. Now, I'm not going to tell you what ChatGPT is. I'm sure that like 99.999% of you here might have already used it for, I don't know, create a story, write an email, write a resignation or something. But I'm not sure that we all understand what ChatGPT actually is. And in its base is a language model. Actually, it's trained on a vast amount of data in order to understand our language. And not only English, actually any language. it actually tries to predict the next phrase that you are going to say and the next phrase that it's trying to tell you. So, as a language model, it does only this. It's there for your language. We use it for several other things, and it's enhanced with the codex in order to understand code and stuff. And we can use it to create code snippets, such as unit tests. I don't know for you, but the first time that I used ChatGPT, actually one of the first times that I used ChatGPT, because I use it a lot, it was to grab a code from my code base, paste it into ChatGPT, and said, okay, write me a unit test for this. And it did, okay, because it also has always has an answer for any question. It doesn't matter if the answer is true or not, but the answer is there. So after that, I had my code snippet. So problem solved, okay? This was a presentation, bye. No. The problem was not solved yet, because you see, ChatGPT as a language model is there to understand what you are asking it to. If you copy and paste a code snippet from your code base and paste it into ChatGPT, then the only thing that knows about you is this code snippet. So it's going to create some assumptions for your code base from this code snippet. So unless you want something very simple, you will end up spending like 50% of the time to review the code output from the ChatGPT and cut and add stuff in order to make it more like the rest of your code base. Even in Stack Overflow, we never just copy-paste stuff. We spend some time in order to make them our own, right? But I end up, when I had this unit test, I end up spend like more time to review the code and actually write it based on my code base than the actual time that it would make me to write the actual unit test. Okay, so the problem is not yet solved. Actually, we're very far from that. So ChatGPT can simply create our unit tests and reduce our effort to create these unit tests. So because the language models create responses based on their trained data, they're not trained for our code base. They trained for whatever they trained for a vast amount of data, but not our code base. So inevitably, it's going to make mistakes, and it's going to take assumptions of something that doesn't exist. So can ChatGPT create unit tests based on our testing style of the code base that we want? So in order to answer that question, we first need to introduce a testing style. Many companies, products, projects, actually any code base that tries to use unit tests usually have a testing style. For example, what do we need to test? How do we test our code? Do we have any patterns? Do we have any documentation? Do we care about the code coverage? The testing coverage? All these questions need to be answered before we can move further. So, yeah, I got it. Now, let's go to the training. As I said before, our goal here is to train a custom model in order to learn our code base, and then create the unit tests based on our code base and note their assumptions. But before that, let's try to understand what is the training process. Okay? The training process of a language model is the same as the human education procedure. We humans have this ability, while we, from youngers to olders, to always learn from our environment. The training process is the same for the AI, with a lot of magic inside. It's not so easy. So remember that humans always learn from different angles and different spectrums, but AIs usually do only one thing. So it's very important to be very careful about what we're trying to feed in our custom trained model. Now, usually the steps of training is, the first one is to find the philosophy of your training. Do you want to train a text-based model? Do you want to train an image-based model? Then we need to gather our data and label them. Usually this is something usually this is something that's made by data scientists. Then we need to prepare the training sets, and then to feed all the training sets to the AI. This is the general approach of anything that we want to train, not only ChatGPT. Any AI model that we want to train follows usually this process. Now, let's talk about training sets. We learned what training procedure is, and now let's dive into training sets. The training set, basically, it is the actual way to write the data that we want to feed into the ChatGPT for this case. And, the data that we want to feed in a specific format. So, now, in order to go back to our problem, in order to create the custom trained model, what kind of data do we need to prepare for our unit tests? We can grab all our positive test cases that already exist in our code base, grab all negative test cases, some edge cases and boundary conditions, and then we need to go wild based on our code base. For example, if we use a JavaScript framework, then we need to add existing tests for our components. If we have any store module for this, the existing test for our store module, and create the training sets from them. It died. Nice. Okay, so how about some examples? A training set may vary on the model we want to train. In our case, OpenAI model accepts a training set in a JSON-L format. Actually, it is a key-pair combination of a prompt and a completion. And it seems like the prompt is more like what a user might ask to the AI model, and the completion is the possible answer that the AI model will respond to that question. So remember that an AI model is not a bunch of conditions. It's a tool that learns from data. So it doesn't mean that you will add the prompt and completion, and then it will wait for the exact prompt in order to answer with the same completion. But it understands from the pattern of your data in order to produce knowledge in code. Now, imagine that we have a web service, which is the actual solution to our problem. Imagine that we want to create a web service in Node.js, and then we need to connect from this web service to the OpenAI endpoints, create a training endpoint, create a generate endpoint, and then we need to use that in order to grab everything. For example, in the generate endpoint, you can use everything to get answers from the ChatGPT. And in the training endpoints, you can pass your data in the JSON-L format in order to train the ChatGPT with this. Now, the testing phase. After that, we need to test that everything that we did during the training actually worked. So here we need to ask another question to the AI model that we didn't have in the training set, something new. For example, write me a unit about this new code snippet that you don't know. And then we need to wait for a correct decision. Actually, after this, the model will normally reply with something based on our code base, because in the training sets, we feed it with code and tests from our code base. The testing phase is the best and the worst phase of the whole project. Why? Because if we messed up with this, then our task would have failed successfully. The training process is time-consuming and money burner, if you like, so we need to be extra careful about this, because to train an OpenAI model is very expensive. Now, a question that came into my mind was, okay, why do we need the custom AI model and all this fuss? Why don't we just utilize the existing ChatGPT application? The thing is that ChatGPT is equipped with something called context awareness, which means that while you ask questions, it remembers the last question that you have and creates a context around it. So all the answers will be based on this context, which means that you can go and say, okay, this is my code snippet, I write like this, this is my code, this is an example of this test, so okay, create me tests like this. The things with context, is that it's limited. And it's actually the context awareness, the thing that made ChatGPT to look more like human, because it remembers everything that you already said. It's a very powerful tool, and unfortunately, you can't keep the context for too long. After some period, the context fades away, so you need to do it again. This thing doesn't happen with a custom trained model. The trained model is there and waits for you. So after some tokens, the context will be lost. As tokens, ChatGPT mentions all the words and every responses that you have. And the custom trained model stays forever. Also, the benefits of having a custom trained model is that you can easily retrain it whenever you have new data. Because this doesn't happen with existing chat. So you can, if we have new tests around, you can just grab the new tests or the new testing patterns and feed it again to the training to the model and have a new model instead. So you can share it among your developer teams. It promotes consistency in testing approaches. Imagine that if you have a guide to help you, it's more easy to write these unit tests. And also enhances the code quality. You still have the power of ChatGPT, though, through the generate endpoints, because a custom trained model is just an enhancement of the existing ChatGPT. Now, as a new emerging technology, as ChatGPT, there are also some concerns that we need to address. It is crucial to establish a feedback loop to ensure the generated tests meet the required standards. It doesn't mean that ChatGPT is a silver bullet right now. You don't grab everything from it, even though that is based on your trained model. And the developers need to validate the review tests, fine-tune the models, provide continuous feedback, and last but not least, find John Connor. Okay, guys, ChatGPT has no arms and legs, so we need to do something for it. So, can I use the ChatGPT in a corporate project? Probably not, is the answer, because all the code that you pass to ChatGPT belongs to OpenAI for some reason, so you might have NDAs around that, and your company might not like that. So there's an alternative of that. It's called WizardLM. It is still a work in progress. It is open source. It's in the same grade as ChatGPT 4, and in my opinion, in the future we might see it not as a different ChatGPT, but as an alternative in the open source world. Now, if you want to see more about the presentation, or if you want a technical hands-on, you can visit us tomorrow in Athens Tech College in the workshop that we have about the whole of this presentation in a more technical ways, where we are going to build the Node.js service and train our custom GPT model. Thank you.